Hello, everybody. Welcome to Plastic Free Delaware's Lunch and Learn. My name is Elisa, and I am the Compost Program Director for Plastic Free Delaware and also known as Zero Waste First State. I'm going to be giving a presentation on our community composting program. So I'm going to get that launched right now. Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you so much again for being here. Again, my name is Elisa King, and I am the Compost Program Director for Plastic Free Delaware, aka Zero Waste First State. And we're going to get started talking about our community composting programs. So I manage the Delaware Community Composting Initiative, and what we are doing is trying to address food waste issues in the first state. We have been doing that historically through educational programming. We go into schools, we do food waste audits, we set up initiatives for them to cut the amount of food waste in their cafeterias. We've been doing that through outreach. We do lots of events spreading information about food waste reduction and our composting programs. And then we're doing this, we are really trying to expand this opportunity to reduce food waste through community composting. We have one operational community composting site at the Tally Day Park, and we're going to talk about our initiative to expand on this. So we like to take a moment and thank our partners. These organizations have been vital in creating this program and sustaining us. So on today's agenda, we're going to do a little bit of composting introduction. We want you to know what composting is and what it isn't. We're going to learn about community composting and then also about the Delaware Community Composting Initiative to expand community composting in Delaware. And then we'll also learn a little bit about other actions that you can take to reduce food waste. So why are we talking about composting? We're talking about composting right now because about 25% of landfill materials consist of food waste in Delaware, and about 42% of that comes from households. And we see composting as a huge opportunity to reduce that amount of food waste going into landfills. So, what is composting? Composting is the controlled biological decomposition of organic material. And what I mean by that is that it is intentional. We take organic materials for our purposes. We mostly focus on food scraps. We focus on food scraps and some other items, yard waste items, and we intentionally put these materials together in a way that creates compost, which is a stable soil amendment. So it is not soil in it of itself, but it is a very beneficial amendment that improves soil's biological, chemical, and physical composition. How do we do this? We do this through a very particular compost recipe. So what we're doing is we're working with four specific materials. One, we're working with carbon-based materials. We call those browns. We're working with nitrogen-based materials, which we call greens. We're working with water, and in our system, we are working with oxygen. There are other ways to compost without oxygen, but for our purposes, we are concerned about the amount of oxygen to make the microbial activity as potent as possible. So what we want to do is this recipe, which would be the ratio of browns to greens is 2 parts to 1. So 2 parts browns to 1 part greens. We ideally want about 60% moisture, and then we want good airflow. And what that does is it generates this microbial and small organism activity where they do almost all of the decomposition to create the compost. So then in the end, what we want is finished compost. We want the characteristics of finished compost are going to look sort of like soil, but um, it's not going to be soil itself, like I had mentioned. So we want it to be dark brown and crumbly. It will not be odorous in a disgusting way. It will smell earthy. It will be similar in temperature to air temperature, and that you will notice within a compost pile that the pile has shrunken significantly, and there would be no obvious signs of food scraps or yard waste. To get finished compost can take anywhere from, it says 5 months to a year. It can be more like 4 months to a year. It all really depends on the way that the recipe has been utilized. It depends on the ambient air temperature at times. The size of the pile can have make a difference, and but what we want in the end is something that looks very much like this. So, what are the benefits and uses of compost? So, we had first mentioned reducing the amount of food and other organics going into landfills. This can be a huge benefit for composting. Other benefits include cycling biological material back into the earth. So we need this material to support biodiversity, to support local ecosystems. It we Everything that we take out of the earth, we need to put back into the earth, and this is a really great way to do it. The finished compost improves soil nutrient availability for plants to uptake. It also improves soil structure and reduces erosion. It improves water retention, and it can also help to remediate soil toxins and balance pH level. One of the most important factors as to why we should be composting is that composting does help fight climate change. So in the landfill, food scraps produce 20 times the methane that food scraps produce when they're being utilized to make compost. And methane is a potent greenhouse gas that is one of the main reasons for our issues with climate change. And then not only is it reducing the amount of methane that is produced from going into landfills, composting is also sequestering carbon. So living living materials live in the compost, and those living materials hold on to carbon. And so basically it's a potent way of sinking carbon into the soil through the use of compost. Now, how are finished composts applied? So we can use finished composts in landscaping and horticulture. It can be used as an amendment to the soil. It can be used on top of the soil as a mulch. We can use it in agriculture and gardening as an organic fertilizer. And when I say organic, I mean it is life-based, carbon-based. So it is not altered with artificial or other types of fertilizers. We can also use the compost for stormwater management and contaminant remedy. This has actually been utilized for rainwater runoff issues. As you can see in this one image, this is a filter sock that is filled with compost. And basically, the water slowly seeps through that compost, and the compost actually pulls out toxins from the water. So let's talk about some common concerns when it comes to composting. So odors. Number one concern. It's the number one reason why compost facilities shut down. But if composting is done right, it does not create these odors. And there are so many things that can be done to prevent that from happening. So within our program, the main thing that we focus on is training and education. We make sure that everybody is properly trained, understands composting, the systems that we are using, how we're doing it, and why we're doing it. We also invest in a bin structure that is really helpful for maintaining good standards of composting. And we also only compost certain items. We make sure that we are composting materials that are going to reduce the issues, especially around odors. And we plan out the sites and we make sure that we have somebody who is overseeing those sites. So when we talk about what we do and don't compost, we focus more on plant-based materials. Um, in the don't compost column in this slide, you can see cooked foods, meats, bones, dairy, pet waste even, use napkins and tissues, all of those things besides the chemicals and soaps. Most of these items can be composted, but in our community composting sites, we avoid these items, mainly because they can, if things are not properly done, there could be odorous issues. But we're also looking at reducing the amount of pathogens that are in the materials for the composting because we're talking about food scraps. Food scraps will harbor some level of pathogens, and soil harbors some level of pathogens. So if we're in soil, we are exposed to it. But what we want to do is really reduce the amount of those pathogens. So by focusing on the plant-based materials, but eggshells are included, we reduce the exposure to potential pathogens. And now I mentioned our bin structure. So what we're focused on is a bin structure that is critter proof, that is also locked and only accessible to people who have been trained in the process. These bin structures are really user friendly to be able to mix materials, to also then keep airflow going. But then it's outfitted in hardware cloth, so nothing big, no animals can get in, and then no dumping can happen. Okay, so now we're going to get into the Delaware Community Composting Initiative and our program. These slides can get a little wordy, but if you want any of this material, I can send it to you. So if you'd like to put your name in the chat, or we can send it to everybody in the end. So really, first off, what is community composting? So this is an opportunity for community members to come together and to participate in a very impactful process uh, that's doing something really meaningful in the community, but also generating community itself. So we're working together, we're getting to know each other, we're coming outside, and we need this more than ever. We're going to work together to address climate change. We can talk about how we can reduce our wastes together. This is an educational space. People come out from young ages to older ages, and everybody can learn these processes. The skill sets that come out of community composting can be applied personally and they can be applied professionally. And this community composting does require an ongoing commitment because we are constantly generating supposed wastes. But what we want to do is take those items that we would consider waste before and turn it into something that is beneficial for our community. So within the DCCI program, what we aim to do is to establish community composting sites. This can be located on private or public property. Really, what just has to happen is an agreement has to form from the landowner or the land operator. We want to partner with community groups. So that could be neighborhoods, businesses, nonprofit organizations, to design, build, and implement these community composting sites. I mentioned before, these would be locked structures. So only trained members of the community composting sites would have access. And this ensures that we are maintaining good standards. We're all operating on the same page. We all have the same education. And the members are committed. The members that we want to participate with are going to be involved in the process from generating their scraps to the soil. You don't have to be a gardener in order to participate in the composting process, but we would definitely, everybody benefits when they're involved and when they can see the entire process happen until till the finished product. Everybody in the group will have some role to play. So at our Tally Day community composting site, everybody volunteers about an hour a month to help with the management, the operation of the site. We have various tasks, but we are looking for other folks to step up to be a part of the leadership of the community composting sites as well. And then as far as each individual program goes, the finished compost is used at the discretion of the group. They would, right now for our Tally Day site, the members get to take the finished compost, and we have had no issues with that. Everybody takes the compost. There's quite a few avid gardeners. But if the site wanted to do something else with it, that would be up to them. And each site, we do collect data. We collect quantitative and qualitative data. Um, these sites are permitted by the Department of Natural Resources in Delaware. And so we do need to collect that information for their record purposes. But we also want to collect it so that we have some idea of what this collective impact is. So first and foremost, this is a partnership. The DCCI program is a partnership between the community group and DCCI or Plastic Free Delaware. So we have commitments that we are looking for from our partner sites. I had mentioned several of those commitments already, but what we want to do is make sure that we have some community members who are ready to be leaders within the project so that there are points of contact, people who would be involved in the process from designing and writing the permit to building and then soliciting the volunteers. So would have we would work with you from the beginning to the implementation, and then we would be available for technical support and other community support ongoing. So through the permit process, currently the fee is $400 through DNREC, and we are capable of helping with that initial permit fee. But ongoing, there will be some costs to have a community composting site that each community group will have to figure out how they plan to sustain that. There are lots of different ways that you can easily raise money for some of these costs because they're not going to be super expensive, but it is something to consider. So we would be helping you with that process, with the permitting process. We are able to assist in purchase of construction materials and startup tools. Really, we were trying to make this a very attractive way of community members to get started with community composting. So, in some of these, it may feel like you don't know where to start. So, I like to give a couple of tips on if you have an interest in starting a community composting site in your area. Um, so, for some of our prerequisites, like seeking out community leaders, just holding an information session in your community or going to a civic association meeting and proposing these are ways that you can reach some folks. Or just start talking about it with your neighbors. You never know who is going to be interested if they don't know that this is an option. There could be folks that are interested in composting. Maybe they're already composting in their backyard. Maybe they don't like composting in their backyard. And maybe community composting would be more attractive to them. Start thinking about where you would want to have a composting site. Who owns that land? How could you gain access to that land? Who would you have to ask permission to use that land? And then also thinking about how we can help you in that process. So, staying in touch with your local officials, let people know that you are interested in composting. It is a great tool that is underutilized in the state, and the more that we get the word out about composting, the more likely we're going to be able to not only spread our community composting initiative, but hopefully long term get the state to prioritize composting as a useful tool for reducing effects of climate change, but also job creation. So our current DCCI projects, like I mentioned, it's Halliday Park. So we've been in operation since January of 2024. Um, we are accepting new members right now. It's very limited on the amount of space that we have, but if you are in the area and you would like to participate, feel free to reach out. We have just gotten approval to establish a site at Carousel Park, and we are actively seeking membership. So please, if you are in the Newark area, Pike Creek area, um, and are interested in helping with getting that set up, becoming a member, we would love to hear from you. We would expect an anticipated launch in sometime in 2026. So, what does a community composting site look like? This is our Tally Day Park site. So it's not very big. We're talking about 4x4 bins that are situated next to each other, and we have six of those bins, as you can see here. And you can't see that there's two going in the opposite direction. So, how we utilize this space is we use these two bins, A and B, for housing our browns. Like I had mentioned before in the beginning, we have to make sure that we have enough carbon material because in our ratio of browns to greens, we need 2 parts browns. And oftentimes having not enough browns can be a reason for odor issues. So in order to ensure that we have enough browns, we have these two storage bins. It's very useful to have those storage bins in times of drought when it comes to the amount of browns that we have access to. So, for instance, in the winter or even in the summer. Um, so it's really great that we have those on site. Then we have bins 1 through 4 where we do the active composting process. So with our site, and it doesn't have to operate in this flow, but we do this here as we start in bin 1 and we do a lasagna layering process. What that means is that we start with a layer of browns and then we add a layer of greens and a layer of browns and a layer of greens. And we do that until we reach our capacity. And then we move all of that material, which gives it a good mix in the moving process, to bin 2. And in bin 2 is where we have our active composting. That active composting is where we start to generate heat. And that's very important in the compost process, in our composting process, and where we use oxygen. And you would learn more about that when we would do the actual compost training. And then we move all the materials down to bin three after about 35 days, and where it goes through a curing process. And basically, that curing process is just slowed down decomposition. Composting is still happening, microbial activity is still happening, but it's just a slower process. And then in bin four, we do the same thing. So it just goes through a second stage of curing. And then afterward, we sift that material after we have tested it to make sure that it is mature. We sift that material and we have two steel bins that are not pictured here, but that's where we house our finished compost. We make sure we have some signage around. We want to inform people, make sure that the people know what we're doing, understand what composting is, why we're composting, information on how to reach us, some emergency information and contacts over on this side. And and that's about it. It's a pretty aesthetically pleasing space. It is located in the middle of a park, and so it's a conversation piece. People love to come over and find out what it even is, because when it's locked up, if you don't go over and read the signage, you don't, a lot of people don't know what it is. So just some of the impact highlights from the Tally Day Park. So we've been operating since January 2024. We have 25 households that are members, and most of those households are two or more people. We have diverted about 3,800 pounds of food scraps during that time, and that is converted to about 1,800 pounds of CO2 saved and 370 gallons of gasoline. These are EPA conversions that you can find on their website. And now some information about the costs that are involved with establishing these sites. So we have a pretty an estimated budget for the materials. This includes the construction materials, the DNREC permit, and all of the tools that you would need to start up a community composting site. So within our program and with our partners, ideally we would seek for a an investment from our partners of about 10 to 20% of the budget. But we will work with people who may not have that. We just need to, we are trying to take the funds that we have and apply them as best as we can to satisfy as many projects as we can in the state. But what we do want mostly are people who really, really want to compost. That's the most important thing when it comes to the community composting projects. We are in conversations with DEMREC to reduce the costs. We have been able to reduce the cost of the permit from $750 to $400 over this last year, but we are still negotiating. We're still trying to reduce that. So a tentative timeline for just getting started, idea generating to getting a community compost site up and running is about 8 to 12 months. The DNREC permitting process is anywhere from 6 months to a year at this point, and that is taking the bulk of the time. But otherwise, the other things that would have to have happen, like getting community interest and community engagement and gaining permissions for land use, those will take a few months, depending on who you are asking permission to use land from. And then the other things would be getting the materials. We are working with Howard Votech, their carpentry department, and they're going to be helping us with the construction of the bins. And we're going to be purchasing a bunch of the materials. And so a lot of those things are going to be easy once we get through the permitting process. So some of the other ways that you can take action, and this could be, you could want to community compost, but you may not be interested in community composting. So there's other ways to divert your food from landfills. You can backyard compost. You can check out our website for some information on backyard composting. There's so many videos on YouTube to check out as well. And I do hope in the future to have a backyard composting workshop if that is something that you're interested in. There are a couple of businesses that are operating in Delaware that pick up food scraps. So you could consider this is a way for you to participate in the composting process, but maybe you don't want to or have feel like you have the time to participate in the process on every step of the way. So you can reach out to businesses like Mother Nurture, who are operating in Delaware, and they are collecting food scraps. Unfortunately, we don't have anywhere in Delaware right now where they can take those food scraps and compost them, but there are places right over the line in Pennsylvania, so it's not too far. But these businesses pick up your food scraps and then they take them, they have them composted. And typically, a part of the process, if you want it, you get finished compost in the end. I'll just reiterate, calling and emailing your state and local reps, let them know that composting is an important an important thing for us to be implementing. It's an action that we can take that is low tech, low cost, easy for people to participate in. And it'd be a great way to build community and get people to all be working towards one cause together. So we do have, and hopefully, I've just heard that um, we will be able to give some public comment on composting regulations, possibly in January of 2026. We will have a whole list of action items that we would like to see happen regarding modifying regulations around composting. And if you would be open to making public comment around those items, or whichever you agree with, we would be very, very appreciative because we're going to need a lot of voices around trying to expand composting in Delaware. Okay, that's it for my presentation. Thank you all for being here, and I would love to open this up for a discussion on composting. My information is here. Feel free to reach out. Please visit our website. And yeah, if you want to talk about composting, let's do it.
Any questions out there? Just unmute, raise your hand. There's got to be some questions, I'm sure.
Okay, I see. Well, hi Jen. Jen Klotz is in the chat asking why is the permit needed? Well, from what I understand is that there's no language around community composting in Delaware regulations. And so it is being interpreted. And basically, Denmark is interpreting it as industrial composting. So we have to follow the same procedures and permitting process that industrial composting has to follow at this point. And that is why we would really like to try and get some of these regulations changed. Oh, you did. Did you answer that, Day? I was just saw the.
I think we both touched on it, so yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all extra helpful
Okay.
then with two answers. Thank you.
Okay.
Mhm. Hi, I have a quick question. This is
Yes.
Kristen. Has there been any conversation or interest about composting in Claymont?
So there is, and actually our second permit is in the process right now for the Claymont Community Center. However, it is not a community composting site. It is only for their pantry operations.
Oh,
So, but that doesn't mean that another site couldn't be considered in Claymont. So the good thing is that the second permit for this size of composting is in the process, and in particular for Claymont, but it is not planned to be a community composting site.
I see. Have you heard of anyone that may be interested in starting it as a community composting site, or just for
Um,
what they're currently planning to use it for?
yeah, they're doing it just for so they have a garden in the back of that pantry, and they're planning on just using it for the garden residuals and the any leftovers that they have from the pantry itself. So it is not being utilized as a community composting site, but I would guess that once they get up and running, if things are going well, there could be the opportunity to expand. I'm just guessing,
Or if
but
you
I
know
mean,
of another
Claymont,
site in Claymont, let us
yeah, if you
know.
know another site in Claymont, or if you know of yourself and other folks that may have interest, it could be an opportunity. I mean, Claymont's big enough.
Okay, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
you're welcome. Okay. Any other questions in the chat?
I have a question.
Yes.
Um, so I'm just thinking like, do you need a permit if you're doing it on private property? Like, for instance, we have a large backyard, and if we wanted to build one of these and invite our neighbors to come put their compost in there, like, would you need a permit for that?
So technically, yes. Though because it's multi-household. So
Okay.
there is a clause that's written into Delaware law that backyard composting is exempt. So if it's your house, your property, your scraps, you um, you are exempt from the permitting process. If you start to have other people participating in that, they look at it as you're generating waste on site. And that is the reason why that type of thing would have to be permitted. But there isn't a whole lot of oversight when it comes to that. Um, I won't tell you to just go ahead and do it, but I'm just letting you know that,
Right.
you
Okay.
know,
All right. Interesting.
if you approach them asking them about that particular activity, that they would say, yes, you need a permit for it.
Got it. Thanks.
Mhm.
Can I ask Al? Al put a question in the chat, and Plastic Free Delaware does table, as I'm sure he's aware, at the Earth Day event or the DRVA World Environment Day event. But Al, are you asking like if Elisa could do a presentation like this there, or because we definitely have flyers and stuff at our table, but I'm just wondering if you're asking like if she could do more during, I don't know if you do that kind of thing at World Environment
Yes, I
Day.
mean, speaking might be difficult the way it's set up, but we're always looking for new ways to get the word out on environmental issues. Uh, but I just think the idea, I don't know, it's a lot to, I'm thinking of like one of those containers, something was actually there and you could walk through it. The hands-on thing, people seeing it and having an appreciation of the scale sometimes goes over better than someone talking about it and handing them piece of information.
We do have a model, like a, I don't know, it's like a 1/10 model, maybe. I don't know exactly what the scale is, but it can fit on a tabletop, and it's still pretty big to haul all around. But if you're really, really interested, maybe we could bring that to your event next year. We bring it to some events, but not every tabling event.
It doesn't fit
I
into
think,
all
yeah,
cars.
yeah. I
Exactly.
mean, if there's some way I can help, with the transport, let me know. But I think that would
Okay.
be good. I've just seen we have similar models where exhibitors demonstrate how stormwater impacts by seeing a model. and just
Hmm.
seeing how water flows. I just think that type of visual goes over so much more and actually resonates with whoever's looking at it than just talking with somebody. 'Cause many of these folks are just from the public. They don't have, they don't see this stuff. So I think having a scale would be nice.
Hmm. Okay. Awesome.
And I've done even just a demo before to bring a 5 gallon bucket and some browns and greens and show people just what we do um, in that process.
Yeah, I mean that's helpful. I mean, like you said, there's a stigma out there that composting is going to smell,
Hmm.
and again, it's a function of how well it's run,
Right.
as you covered.
I see. Jen, oh, what is the training like? So if I was doing a training for a potential new member of one of our sites, we start out with a virtual training. Right now, that is a video just to watch of me giving a presentation on some of the composting basics. And then we do an on-site training, hands-on. We'll meet at the site. We'll do all the pieces, all the parts um, of what you do through the composting process, and there's some health and safety training that goes with that. And then there is a kind of probationary period where you'll do supervised drop-offs for about 2 times, as just to ensure that the comfort level of the member and make sure that they're understanding all of the processes. And then eventually they get full access to the site to go at their convenience and drop off their materials.
Great. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Any more questions? Did I miss anything in the chat?
Not that I see. Yeah, I think you're
Okay.
caught up there. I neglected to put what I promised in the chat for anyone out there that's a runner or a walker or knows a runner or a walker. We have a Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving, opt outside 5K down along the C&D Canal. So not on, it is on pavement, but a trail, not on the roads. And it's a great scenic run and just lots of fun. We make it a green event in every way possible. So you can check that out on our website and help us spread the word. Hope you'll join us. It's a great way to kind of not shop till you drop on Black Friday. Or you can do that in the afternoon if you want, but the whole idea is to get outside and enjoy the outside and with new friends and old friends and just think about experiences rather than shopping. So anyway, join us if you can. It supports all of our educational programs, including things like this that we're doing now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be nice to just move the body.
Yeah, exactly. Other than that, I think that's the only event we have coming up in the near future. We have our Yes Youth
Break.
Summit for high school students in February. If you have a high school student in your house or know of one, it actually has its own website. It's linked on our main website, but it's delawareyes.org. You can check out for that event, and registration opens in December for that.
Yeah, so if there's no further questions, please reach out to me if you I can send all of this information. Let me put my email in the chat here. Um, Let me know if you're interested or you want help just getting started, um, you know that you want a community compost and there wasn't one near you. Maybe we can help you with determining some potential sites. Um, Yeah, and we just want to get more of these composting sites up and running, generating a culture of composting being a solution to our several of these environmental problems. So, thank you for being here, and I hope to see you soon.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Take care.
That was really good.
Okay.
Oh, wait, let me turn.